At a family barbecue, my sister's kid got a brand new tablet. My daughter got a cracked old one wrapped in newspaper. Mom said, "It's still usable, isn't it?" My sister smirked, "Be grateful she got anything." As my daughter held back tears, I just watched, but what happened an hour later silenced the whole backyard. I'm not one for dramatics, and I tend to stay quiet during family tensions. But what happened last summer still replays in my head, and even now, I wonder if that day didn't mark the final break I needed. My name is Lacey. I'm 42, divorced, and a mom to a beautiful 10-year-old girl named Fallon. We live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. It's a modest life, but a peaceful one. Fallon's dad, Miles, is long out of the picture. He moved to Portland years ago and barely calls. But I've done my best to raise Fallon with love, honesty, and compassion. My family? That's a whole other story. I'm the younger of two daughters. My older sister, Marlena, is 44 and has always been the golden child. If I was the steady one, the quiet achiever, Marlena was the storm. Loud, opinionated, competitive, and somehow always rewarded for it. My mom, Yvonne, never made a secret of her favoritism. Marlena's kids always got more. More attention, more gifts, more praise. Even when Marlena dropped out of college and moved back home with two toddlers, she was praised for making it work. Meanwhile, I graduated, worked 3 jobs, stayed afloat with no help, and was told I was too proud. Still, I showed up. I attended the birthdays. The holidays. I swallowed the little things, comments about Fallon's cheap clothes or how she was too sensitive. I chalked it up to generational differences and reminded myself that family is complicated. Until that day at the barbecue. It was Yvonne's annual summer barbecue, held every July at her home in Durham. Her backyard was big, shaded by a massive oak tree, and the event had become a family tradition, even if it always came with tension. Fallon had been excited all week. My mom had hinted that she might have a surprise for the grandkids, and Fallon, like any 10-year-old, let her imagination run wild. Maybe a scooter? A Nintendo Switch? She'd been saving up for one and hoped maybe Grandma would help. When we arrived, the grill was already going, kids running around in swimsuits, Marlena laughing too loudly near the wine cooler. I helped bring in the coleslaw and tried not to notice that no one offered to help. Fallon made a beeline for the table, spotting the pile of gifts wrapped for the grandkid surprise. And there it was, wrapped in crisp red paper with a gold bow, an unopened Apple iPad with the latest accessories. Marlena's son, Blake, 11, squealed as he tore it open. Wow. Marlena clapped, fake surprised. Mom, you didn't have to. I was behind Fallon when Yvonne turned to her and said, "Yours is next, sweetie, it's right here." She handed Fallon a loosely folded newspaper. Not even taped shut. Inside was an old Kindle Fire, cracked in one corner, no charger. Dust on the screen. Fallon froze, staring at it. "It still works," Yvonne said casually, sipping her iced tea. "You can play games on that, can't you?" Then came Marlena's voice, low, amused. "Be grateful she got anything." Fallon swallowed and smiled, tightly. "Thanks, Grandma." But her hands shook. I said nothing. My first instinct was to speak up, to call it out. But I didn't. Not yet. I watched Fallon walk over to the swing set, sitting quietly with the tablet resting on her knees, untouched. Yvonne had gone back to mingling. Marlena poured herself another glass of rose. No one said anything. Because why would they? This was just how it went. Until it wasn't. About an hour later, while everyone was sitting at the long picnic tables, eating ribs and chatting, Fallon stood up. She walked to the middle of the yard and cleared her throat. At first, no one noticed. But when she held up the cracked tablet in the air, people turned. "I just want to say thank you for this gift," she said. Her voice was small but steady. "Grandma, you said it still works." It probably does. But this screen is hard to see through, and it makes my hand itchy when I hold it. Some laughter. Nervous. Awkward. And Aunt Marlena said I should be grateful. I am. I'm grateful for my mom, who saved for 3 months to buy me a used Chromebook for school. Fallon turned to me and smiled, this brave, quiet little smile that nearly broke me. I just wanted you to know I don't need this tablet. I'll give it to Blake, since he might want to throw it off the porch like he did with the last one. Dead silence. Fallon handed the tablet back to Yvonne, walked over to me, and sat down without a word. I've never been prouder. I didn't coach her. I hadn't planned this. It was all her. And the effect was immediate. Yvonne opened her mouth, then closed it again. Marlena turned bright red, fuming. Blake looked embarrassed for once. A few of the cousins shifted uncomfortably. The air felt different. Thicker. Sharper. Nobody knew what to say. So I said it. She doesn't need pity gifts, I said, loud enough for the whole table. She just wanted to feel included. That's not hard. But if it is, we'll stop coming. And I meant it. We left not long after. A few relatives tried to apologize in whispers. One aunt, Yvonne's sister, pressed $20 into Fallon's hand and mouthed, "Good for her." Back in the car, Fallon didn't cry. She looked out the window, watching the pines blur past, her little fists still clenched in her lap. "You okay?" I asked softly. She nodded. It felt good to say something. And that's when I knew she was stronger than me. At 10. She'd already found her voice. After that day, I stopped showing up to family events out of obligation. I declined Thanksgiving. Said no to Christmas. I didn't argue, I just stopped making room where there wasn't space for us. Yvonne sent a few passive-aggressive texts. It's a shame Fallon won't grow up with her cousins. Tell her grandma says hi. I never blocked her. I just stopped replying. Marlena, surprisingly, went silent. I suspect she realized her power only worked when people played along. Meanwhile, Fallon began to flourish. We enrolled her in an after-school coding club. I saved up and got her a refurbished iPad on my own terms, no cracked screen, no newspaper. Just wrapped in bright blue paper with a note, "Because you deserve better than hand-me-down love." Now, when people ask about my family, I don't lie. I just say, we're not close. And I don't apologize for it. Fallon knows the truth, not just about favoritism, but about resilience. She knows you don't need to scream to stand up for yourself. Sometimes you just need to speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. And that cracked tablet? We donated it to a local shelter. Along with a note that said, "Still usable, but we believe someone deserves something better." Just like Fallon did. Just like I finally believed I did, too. It's not broken, my mom said, watching my daughter peel back layers of newspaper. The screen still turns on. Be grateful she even got anything, my sister muttered with that fake smiling voice. My daughter blinked and gave this tight, polite nod. But I saw her lip tremble. I saw her little fingers curl around that thing like she wanted to hide it. And I just sat there. I didn't react. Not right then. But something happened an hour later, something I didn't plan, that made everyone stop talking. And it changed everything. I don't even know how to begin this story. I guess it's been building for years. Family tension is one thing, but when it bleeds onto your child, when your kid starts carrying the weight of your family's dysfunction, you realize just how deep the roots go. My name is Lacey, I'm 42, and I live with my 10-year-old daughter Fallon in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. It's a beautiful, tree-lined college town with just enough of a suburban feel that it feels like home. I'm divorced, left Fallon's dad, Miles, when she was 3. He's been out of the picture ever since. No visits. A few birthday cards, mailed late. Fallon and I have built a quiet life together. Not rich, not flashy, but full of warmth. She's funny, sensitive, big-hearted. She still draws me pictures before bed, and when she's happy, she sings to herself while she reads. She's the kind of kid you want to protect from the world. But the world, in this case, was family. My mom, Yvonne, is 68, sharp-tongued, and full of tough love, which is her way of justifying emotional jabs. She plays favorites. Always has. My sister, Marlena, 2 years older than me, has always been her clear favorite. Growing up, I used to think it was because Marlena was louder, more outgoing, more charming. The type to command attention. I was the quieter one. The independent daughter. That's the word they used, independent. But what they meant was, invisible. Marlena has 2 kids, Blake 11 and Hannah 9. Blake is loud like his mom, a little spoiled, but not mean. Hannah sweet, quiet. Fallon gets along with her. The cousins are close enough in age that they orbit each other at family gatherings, even if the adults make things uncomfortable. My mom throws this barbecue every July in Durham. It's a thing she's done for over a decade: picnic tables, store-bought potato salad, ribs that get charred, kids in swimsuits. A southern summer staple. She calls it Yvonne's backyard bash. She says it with pride, like it's a franchise. This year, Fallon was really excited. My mom had called earlier in the week and mentioned having a little surprise for the grandkids. Fallon lit up like a sparkler. She's not materialistic, but when you're 10 and grandma hints at a surprise, your imagination runs wild. She thought maybe it was a shared trip, or new books, or even just matching gifts for all the cousins. Something simple. Something equal. We showed up with brownies and juice boxes, wearing our best, casual but family photo-ready outfits. I immediately noticed the table full of neatly wrapped boxes near the back porch. Marlena's voice rang out over the music as she laughed with my mom and her boyfriend, Walter. Fallon sat patiently, making polite small talk with her cousins, glancing at the gift table every now and then. She didn't ask. She just waited. About 45 minutes in, my mom clinked a spoon against her cup and called everyone over. "Let's give the kids their summer surprises," she said. "A little something from Grandma." Blake ripped into his box first. A brand new iPad. Not a Kindle. Not a knockoff. The real thing. Fresh out of the box with a blue case and Apple Care. He hooped and ran around the yard like he'd won the lottery. Marlena laughed and shouted, "Don't drop it this time." Then came Fallon's turn. My mom walked over, pulled something from a plastic bag, and handed it to Fallon. It was wrapped in 2 pieces of newspaper, uneven and loose. No tape. Just folded around. Fallon hesitated, then peeled it open. It was an old, scratched Amazon Fire tablet. One of those early models. The screen was cracked, the back was dented, and there was a sticky patch on one corner. There was no charger. No case. Just the tablet. "It still turns on," my mom said, shrugging. "Might need to be plugged in for a bit, but it works." Then Marlena, sipping from her plastic wine cup, said, "Be grateful she got anything." That's what did it. The word grateful. Like it was charity. Fallon smiled. "Just barely." "Thanks, Grandma." Then she walked to the side of the yard, sat under the tree, and quietly stared at the screen. Her posture said everything. Her back straight. Chin slightly tilted. She wasn't sulking, she was holding it in. And I just stood there. I wish I could say I marched over, snatched the mic, read them for filth. I didn't. I stayed frozen, holding a paper plate full of ribs I didn't want anymore. My stomach turned. I thought, if I make a scene, it's just more drama. It'll just give them more reason to talk. Fallon will be embarrassed. She'll be the kid with the angry mom. So I waited. And Fallon? She didn't cry. About an hour later, something happened. It was during dessert. Everyone was sitting at the tables eating ice cream sandwiches and pound cake. Fallon stood up and quietly walked to the front of the yard. She was holding the tablet. "I just wanted to say thank you for this," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. The adults looked up. Blake was mid-bite, and Marlena lowered her sunglasses. "I know it's old," Fallon continued, "and it's kind of hard to see through the cracks. But I'll try to use it. If it doesn't work, that's okay too." She paused. "But I think next time, maybe just tell me ahead if I'm not getting the same thing. So I can prepare." That was it. Simple. No sarcasm. No tears. Just a kid, asking not to be humiliated. The silence was deafening. Even the wind seemed to stop. Fallon handed the tablet to Marlena. "Maybe Blake can use this one if he breaks his new one." Then she sat back down beside me and picked up her ice cream. No one moved for several seconds. Yvonne blinked. Walter coughed. Marlena looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. And I exhaled. Fallon had done what I couldn't. She didn't lash out. She didn't grovel. She just told the truth, clean and quiet. She had more dignity in that moment than every adult in the backyard combined. After Fallon sat down beside me, I didn't say a word. I just handed her a napkin for her ice cream and gently smoothed her hair back from her face. Her hands were calm, no longer clenched. Her voice hadn't shaken once. It took another full minute for conversation to resume. But it didn't resume in the same way. There was a heaviness to it now, like someone had turned down the volume on the entire party. I could feel people looking over at us, then looking away. The energy had shifted. I didn't make eye contact with Marlena, but I saw her out of the corner of my eye, hunched toward Blake, pretending to adjust something on his chair. My mom said something about the weather, loud and forced, and a few people humored her with small talk. But it was clear, something had broken open. Fallon didn't seem to notice. Or maybe she did, and she just didn't care anymore. She finished her ice cream slowly and started doodling in her notebook. She always brought it with her, her way of finding peace in chaos. A few relatives came over quietly to compliment her. My mom's cousin Elna, who'd always been neutral, gave her a hug and said, "That was very brave, sweetheart." Another aunt, someone I rarely heard from, offered Fallon one of her necklaces just because it matched her dress. I don't think they realized they were doing damage control, but they were. No one apologized, though. Not directly. Not to me. Not to Fallon. That was the part that stung the most, not the cracked tablet, not the snide remark, but the way the adults in that backyard tried to glue the moment back together without taking any accountability. They just wanted to move on, to smooth over the ripple. But Fallon had started something. Something none of them could ignore. After the barbecue wound down, people started packing up early. It was only 5 o'clock, but suddenly everyone had a thing in the morning. My mom made a half-hearted attempt to get us to stay longer. "You know, Lacey, you could help take the decorations down," she said as I picked up our empty casserole dish. Fallon looked up at me, wide-eyed. I gave her a calm smile and said, "We've got plans." That wasn't a lie. We stopped at a drive-thru on the way home and had a little living room picnic. Chicken nuggets, fries, root beer. I let Fallon pick the movie. We rewatched Spirited Away for the 3rd time that month. She didn't bring up the barbecue at all that night. Not a single word. But after the movie, when I was tucking her in, she whispered, "Thanks for not making a big deal." I sat beside her and brushed her hair back from her forehead. "You made the right kind of deal, kiddo," I said. "You told the truth without being cruel. That's a hard thing to do." She nodded, then pulled her blanket up to her chin. That was the night something changed in me. The next few weeks were quiet. No group texts. No forwarded memes from my mom. I didn't call. She didn't either. Marlena went radio silent. Normally she'd have posted 10 pictures from the barbecue by now, bragging about the kids and her fun-loving family. But nothing. Then I got a message from my cousin Iris. She's a bit of a black sheep in the family, someone who had quietly distanced herself years ago and moved to Asheville. She'd heard what happened. "You okay?" she asked. "I'm fine." Fallon handled it better than I would've. "She always seemed like an old soul," Iris replied. "That backyard's needed a truth explosive for years." She went on to tell me how she'd been slowly cutting off family contact because of the favoritism. That when her kids were younger, she'd dealt with the same thing. Her daughter once got socks for Christmas when Marlena's son got a new game console. She remembered the exact year. The exact moment her daughter looked at her and quietly said, "Did I do something wrong?" It made me realize this wasn't new. This wasn't personal just to me. It was a system. A pattern. But it was the first time someone broke it in public. Fallon went back to school in August. I packed her lunch every day with a little note, just a sentence or two. One day she came home and asked me to stop. "Not because I don't like them," she said. "But because I already know." "I know what you'd say." "What would I say?" "That I'm smart, and brave, and I make you proud." She said it like a fact. Like gravity. Not boastful, just steady. It's strange what one moment in a backyard can do. She had spoken up not just for herself, but for a part of me that had never learned how. I got a text from my mom about a month later. "Are you coming to Blake's birthday? We're doing it at the bowling alley again." That was it. No mention of the barbecue. No check-in. No reference to what had happened. I stared at the screen for a long time. And then I typed, "We won't be there." Fallon deserves to be treated with respect. I won't bring her anywhere she's expected to just accept less. No response. But I knew she saw it. A few days later, I got a call from my Aunt Nora. She said she and two of the other cousins were planning to do a small girls' day with their daughters and wanted to invite Fallon. Nothing big, just ice cream and art supplies at a local park. "We don't want her thinking she's alone," Nora said. "She's not. Not anymore." I accepted. Fallon had a great time. She came home with new paints, a sketchbook, and cheeks sore from laughing. That mattered more than any plastic-wrapped tablet ever could. A few months passed. By the time Thanksgiving came around, I'd made up my mind, we weren't going. I didn't send an excuse or apology. I just didn't RSVP. Fallon asked me once if we'd be going to Grandma's this year, and when I said no, she just nodded. "Can we go to the bookstore instead?" "Anything you want," I said. So we spent that Thursday in our favorite used bookstore in Raleigh. We browsed for hours, picked out a few illustrated poetry books, and got cocoa afterward. We wore sweaters, not judgment. We wrapped ourselves in comfort, not obligation. Meanwhile, the family photos from Yvonne's Thanksgiving went up online like clockwork. Marlena posted a few shots of the spread, sweet potato casserole, turkey, Blake asleep with a plate on his chest. What wasn't in the pictures? Hannah. Or Aunt Nora. Or Iris. Or two other cousins who quietly messaged me to say they had their own smaller dinners that year. Turns out, we weren't the only ones making changes. Then came Christmas. In early December, I got an email from Yvonne titled Christmas List. She used to send one every year with what she was getting each grandkid, followed by suggested gifts for everyone else. This time was no different, except when I opened it, Fallon's name wasn't on the list at all. Just Blake and Hannah. No mention. No line that said Fallon, gift TBD, or even Ask Lacey. Just blank. I stared at the screen, not even angry. Just resolved. Then, on December 18th, I posted a photo. It was a picture of Fallon sitting at the kitchen table, in a new fuzzy robe, her face lit up with joy. In front of her was a stack of wrapped books and a brand new tablet, a real one this time. We'd saved for it all year. The caption read, "Holiday mornings at home. Safe. Quiet. Fair. No hashtags. No tags. Just the truth. That post got more likes than anything I'd posted in years. Not because it was flashy, but because it resonated. A few days later, my inbox pinged again. From Yvonne subject, "You're being petty body, posting stuff like that is just attention seeking. You think making me look bad is the same as being a good parent. Don't expect anything from me ever again." I sat with that for a few minutes. And then, for the first time in my life, I replied. "I've never wanted anything from you except fairness and decency. You've made it clear that's off the table. Fallon and I are building something better without you. If that makes you uncomfortable, that's your discomfort to sit with." Then I blocked her. Not out of spite. Not even out of anger. But because the most powerful kind of revenge isn't rage, it's indifference. It's the act of saying, "You no longer get to shape our story." Fallon never asked about her grandma again. She started therapy soon after, just someone she could talk to besides me. Not because anything was wrong, but because I wanted her to learn early what I hadn't until my 30s, that emotions deserve safe places. She started writing more, too. Little poems. Some stories. One day I found one tucked in her backpack titled, "The Girl Who Took Her Heart Back." I didn't ask her about it. I just hugged her longer that night. Marlena stayed mostly silent. We saw Hannah at a school event in the spring, and she ran to hug Fallon. No drama. Just two kids who still liked each other, despite the adults. I gave Marlena a polite nod. She nodded back. It was enough. By the time the next summer barbecue rolled around, I got the invite. This time, I declined. No explanation. Just no, thank you. Fallon and I spent that weekend at the coast, Wrightsville Beach. We watched the sunset from a quiet little dock and ate hush puppies and fresh shrimp with our feet in the sand. She leaned on my shoulder and said, "This is way better than a backyard with cracked screens and fake smiles." And that was the moment I realized, we had won. Not because we shouted. Not because we exposed anyone. But because we stopped showing up to be humiliated. Because we chose peace over performance. And because Fallon, at just 10 years old, learned something it took me decades to grasp: you don't have to accept the love you're given if it's wrapped in newspaper and condescension. You can choose better. And walk away. And that's the kind of revenge that echoes.